And welcome back to Meeting of the Minds. Today we're here with the great Shane Fullerton, the baseball coach at Harding University. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Gene, you may want to. I'm at Harding Academy. You may want to make note of that. But I'm at Harding Academy, which is also affiliated with Harding University. I was the head coach at Harding University for 9 years, but I'm at Harding Academy, which is a high school now.
Awesome, great stuff. Well, how are the athletes doing during this time? What's the story there with them? I know that you can't really have physical contact with them. What have they been doing to get better? Are they still communicating with you?
Actually, in our state, we can. Starting on Monday, we had our dead period lifted, which I guess we were under that dead period since mid-March. And starting on Monday, we got to make contact with our athletes again. Very much a process, making sure that we're keeping everyone safe. But the athletes came back onto the field and in the gym with some safeguards on Monday in our state. I know a lot of other states can't do that so far, but it's still a little bit of an absence. It's still a little bit of a hands-off approach, which is appropriate, I know, but it's been hard on them. When all of this happened, one of the first things I did was text and send out via a communication app to all my guys saying, hey, it's okay for you to feel down about this a little bit. People are going to say it's only baseball or it's only sports. And you make sure that you know it's all right for you to mourn the loss of your year a little bit. But we've also got to find something to be hopeful for. So that's what we kind of concentrated on. And if the rug's pulled out from under us on a season or anything else, then let's find something else to be hopeful for. So
Yeah,
they've been doing well, though. They're resilient.
that's great. That's good to hear. Now, talk about the difference. Talk about the coaching. You coached at the university, now at the academy. What's the difference between coaching at the high school level and college? What are some of the similarities, some of the differences that you see?
Well, the number one thing that everybody would think about and that I look at is just the difference in the caliber of athlete. And that's one thing that you miss when you coach high school baseball or any sport, I would assume, and you have coached college before. I miss the caliber of athlete, but we're fortunate. We have high caliber high school athletes here. The thing that's so great about it, though, and it was this way at the university too, but so much of the growth process that we get to see with high school athletes and even down into the junior high ranks, they're figuring out who they are. We're a private Christian school, so we like to say they're figuring out whose they are and who they want to honor this game with, and we want to make sure that we, as a private, institution and a Christian institution, we have something we call HGH, and that's honor God or go home. It's not human growth hormone, but we say that it's the real human growth hormone. If you really want to grow, we got to figure out how we honor God with this game, or go home. Don't play do something else. It's easier said than done. I fail at it probably more than they do, but it's my goal, and it's my goal to teach them that as well, and they teach me probably more than I do them. So, all in all, the difference between the two levels, what you would expect as far as the athletes go, really a whole lot of it is the same as far as the spirit of the kids go. So I absolutely love it. I would want to coach at either level. Don't ever really want to leave the level that I'm at right now. God's really worked a lot through what we do, I believe, and through those kids.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it seems like sometimes the more oriented you are to the light, the more you see your own personal defects. It's
Absolutely.
kind of I think it was St. John of the Cross who said if you're looking outside of a window at nighttime, you can't see any smudges on the mirror. But then if you're looking at it in daylight, broad daylight, then you see all the different smudges you're looking. So
Absolutely, and that goes so. I love to do public speaking. I get to speak at our school. I get to go out to some other places and speak, and I enjoy doing that. But one of the things that allows me to enjoy that is I usually am talking about something that is a glaring deficiency in myself. So if I'm challenging myself to get better, it's easier for me to challenge others to get better along with me. And really and truly, it's the same in coaching.
Right.
The days of telling kids in my day, this, and this, they're over for good reason. Now, sometimes we've got to use our experiences as this is what I've learned and this is what you need to do. This is what my coach did with me. Absolutely.
Sure.
But to lord ourselves over kids by saying this is how it's supposed to be done and you're not there and I was doing this when I was your age, they need more reality than that. They know that we are flawed, and they need real people to teach them and mentor them, not just to lord rules over them nowadays.
That's right. And it just, they buy in a lot more because they see there's a human behind the coach. Of course, the authority structure, right? We're not saying just everyone's even, but that coach who is the clear authority, who's able to give, hey, I'm in this battle too. I struggle with this also. It's not easy. That's great.
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
Is Harding University a Christian school?
Absolutely.
But
Harding University.
Oh, they both.
Right. Harding University is a Christian school. It was founded in 1924. Just one of the best places that I've ever been. And as a matter of fact, I've been here since I was a freshman in 1989, and God's allowed me to stay here since then. And it's a great community. It's a community that serves. Harding Academy is a part of the Harding University system. Per se, but we are a high school. Well, we're K through 12 with preschool as well. So, yes, we're part of their system.
Excellent. And now, so that's great. So you could speak openly about faith with your athletes. Not a lot of schools have that benefit. How much does that help?
Oh man, I'll tell you. I tell my good friends in public schools. It goes both ways. We all get a bad rap sometimes. They want so badly to be able to express their faith, and I've had friends who've looked at them before and saying, well, "Why don't you just do it?" Well, that's easier said than done. If you want to continue to be a godly influence over these kids at whatever school you're at, public school, let's say, well, you can't lose your job and still be a godly influence.
Right.
So you have to really gauge your words and lead by example. And when the opportunity is there, you take advantage of the opportunity.
Right.
So we can't judge that too harshly. On the other hand, we're a private school and people automatically start thinking, well, you're recruiting, you're doing all this. And that's not true here. It's like what goes on in our world right now, whether it be with COVID or whether it be going with the tragedy that's going on right now. Their accusations could fly in all different directions if that's what we want to do. And what we've got to do is just make sure that we're making the right choices and doing right in our situation.
Yeah, and I would assume that schools are allowed to recruit. Are they not allowed to recruit?
No, we're not. No, absolutely
okay.
not. If we even get a call, I've gotten a call before. I mean, I've gotten them several times where, hey, we want our son to come. We want our son to come to Harding, and immediately I have to say, I'm sorry, I can't speak to you. I have to turn you over to my principal and my superintendent, and they take care of that. We're not allowed to talk to them about that at all.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, no, I wasn't sure. I guess it's like that around the country. I would assume it's tough because the benefit that a public school has is they could build up a recreation program, a feeder program. So that's a big advantage right there that you're able to do that. And then the benefit of the private schools, as the private schools get better and better, then people want to come to you.
Absolutely.
So I would think initially the private school is at a big disadvantage, and then maybe over a period of time, maybe it shifts. But as an athlete, you can't think about that. As a coach, you can't think about that. You do the best with what you're doing.
Sure, absolutely. All those cases, each scenario is specific to that individual school or school district. And we share this city with two other public schools that do a great job. I hope and we are mixed. We're as far as our private school, public school in our state. The private schools play with the public schools, so we're a 2A size school, but we play 3A in our sports because we're a private school, and that's fine and that's fair. But man, I've just seen a lot of good people at all of our schools. And when good people get together, they make things work.
Absolutely. I got that sense when I came to your coaches convention that the coaches that compete against each other genuinely do like each other and are sharing information. That was a wonderful thing to see. Can you talk about your coaches convention and that brotherhood of the coaches you have there?
Absolutely. We started our coaches association back, the baseball coaches, about 7 years ago. Um, a really good core of coaches who've been around a long time in our state. We'll have somewhere between 85 to 125 at our clinic every year, and a lot of those guys are still coaching football at that time and are just ending their football season in December. So when we're there, we feel like we've done a great job at getting good speakers, and you were one of those, and you did a great job when you were with us. And it draws a good crowd of coaches who are hungry to do better for their kids. So when it all gets down to it, if we're all hungry to do better jobs for our kids, we're going to want to bounce things off of each other. We're going to learn from each other. And there are a few guys out there who will say, man, don't tell anybody about this. We don't really want anybody to know about this. And if it's a sign or something like that, I get it. But man, if it's a great way to teach a kid, I say let's share it, no matter what school we're from.
Absolutely. I mean, it really was a great thing. I mean, flying in there and coming in, it was a packed house, number one, and I feel like also everyone stayed the whole time.
Yeah,
That's not a given at coaches conventions, staying
absolutely.
the entire time.
Absolutely. We're fortunate in Arkansas. I'm from Southeast Missouri. I came as a freshman in '89 and haven't left Arkansas. Proud to be an Arkansan now, and it's a great state with great people. So I'm glad you got to see part of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Look forward to coming back when all this when all this dies down.
Yeah,
If it does,
absolutely.
God willing. Now, talk about the different Zoom meetings you have now, that things you've been doing to fortify people with faith and mindset, the whole package.
Sure. Um, on the baseball front, we really got this idea from a former Arkansas high school baseball coach who's now in Stillwater, Oklahoma. His name's Jim Harris, and Coach Harris invited a few of us to get on a Zoom with him, just 9 or 10 of us. A lot of Zooms are hundreds of people or dozens of people and one person speaking, and I like those, and that's what we're doing on Sunday nights that I'll talk about here in just a second. But Coach Harris had the idea to just take 8, 9, 10, 11 guys, everybody have a couple of questions to throw out to the rest of the group and let everybody talk to answer that question. It really, really was a great idea. We adopted that through our coaches association, started doing some of that. So productive. So many notes that I take after 25 years of coaching. I'm just in 48 years old. I'm just taking notes constantly on these things, saying we're going to do that next year. And so it's been really productive on the baseball front. One thing that we started, and Eddie Stevenson is my partner in running the Arkansas High School Baseball Coaches Association. As a matter of fact, he's the president. I'm the vice president if you have to have a title. But I asked him if he would help me. I really wanted to get what we call a Zoom or Skype or a baseball devotional going on Sunday nights, and we're actually thinking about moving that to Mondays now, and I think we're going to do that because so many people are going back to church here, and they go to church, and we're doing it at 7 p.m. and they get out of church, they go eat, and we've seen that is affecting a little bit how many people are able to get on with us on Sunday night. So I think we're going to move to Mondays. But what we do is basically ask a speaker, and I was the first speaker, and I just talked about fear. And we had about 30 people on there. I just texted some guys and said, hey, you want to get on there with us? So we had some coaches, we had some parents, we had some players, and it went well. The next Sunday, Coach Stevenson spoke, did a really good job. I put it on Facebook that week, and we had about 45, 50 on that one. The next week, Coach Ray Birmingham, who is the who is the head coach at the University of New Mexico. Coach Birmingham spoke, did a good job. We had about 85 or 90 on that Zoom call. And
Wow.
all of these are spiritual in nature, but wrapped around three cords, what we call Ecclesiastes 4:12 says that a cord of three strands is not easily broken. And what we're calling those three cords for our purposes are the fact that we're all in COVID together. Even though we're apart in some ways, we're together in this trying to get through. The second thing is we all love the game. We all love baseball in one way, shape, or form. It's put every piece of bread that my family and I have ever eaten on my table. That's what God has used to feed us, and I love it in a very special way. And I know a lot of people on our calls do. And then third, just that we all believe that Jesus is the Son of God, that He died for us, and we want to celebrate those three things, and they draw us closer. So, Coach Birmingham, Eddie, myself, it really got kicked off in a good way. And then we were really fortunate to have Matt Holliday, four-time All-Star in the big leagues, Gold Glove winner, Silver Slugger Award winner. Really, a great guy and a really good speaker. We just had questions for him, and we asked Matt about what it's like to be in the big leagues and be a man of faith and try to get through. We even talked about the mental game. What are you trying to tell yourself, and how does, I believe Satan wants to take that away from us. He wants to take confidence away from us, and if he takes it from us in baseball, it'll be that much easier to take it from us as a parent, and it becomes a habit. And Matt spoke to all those things. It was great. We had over 200 computers and phones working on that Zoom call. I personally talked to multiple people who had 8 to 10 to 12 watching one computer. I bet we had 400 or 500 on that call. So that was great. Jason Curry, who started Finish Empty. He's the founder of Finish Empty, was our next speaker, did a wonderful job. Then we had Mike Matheny, who was the manager for the Cardinals for several years, Gold Glove winner himself, now the new manager of the Kansas City Royals. I called him as soon as it was over, and I said, brother, I'm not going to call you again. I'm not going to wear out your phone number. You'll probably never hear from me again. I just want you to know that made me emotional. The way that these guys say, I am a baseball player at the highest level, even though they're not talking about themselves that way, but I am a man of God first. It's inspiring. So it has been wonderful. Skip Schumacher, who was, and we're staying with the Cardinals theme, I guess, because that's my favorite team, but we're not going to stay with that. It just kind of happens that way. But Skip Schumacher, who was with the Cardinals and the Dodgers for a lot of years, really good Major League Baseball player, not quite the accolades that those other guys had, but he is now the associate manager for the Padres. He's going to be our next speaker. We're putting that together. It's either going to be Monday night if he can get off the field enough to do that, or the next Monday night. So, man, we're pumped. It has been a blessing to us big time.
Oh, that's great. And especially just where, like you said, you have these high-level athletes, high-level coaches who are talking about having the right perspective, having their priorities in line. Because you do see it with coaches, with athletes, with movie stars all around the world, where they might have all the success, all the fame, and they're depressed, they're hooked on drugs, they're suicidal. Well, what good is that?
Yeah.
Right.
What does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? So
that's right.
Absolutely. And those guys get this.
Yeah, and seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be given to you. Matthew 6:33. That's one of my favorites.
Absolutely.
Not that we're doing it as a prosperity gospel, but if you do things right, there tends to be ancillary benefits.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, I wasn't planning on saying this, but we got our wires crossed with Skip this last week. And I say we, it was me. That's my responsibility. And Skip's on the West Coast, and he was supposed to speak on Sunday. And, man, he was thinking West Coast time. And, we're in Arkansas. So at 7 o'clock West Coast time, it's 9 o'clock here. So at 7 o'clock here, it's 7:08. And we got I don't know how many people on there so far. And I'm texting Skip, and he said, man, I'm not off the field for another hour and 45 minutes. And so we got our wires crossed, which that was a little bit embarrassing. So I just spoke, and I wasn't ready for it, but it's a story that I've told so many times. But I'm not going to share the whole story with you here because it would just take too long. But almost 16 years ago, we had a baby that was born and died on the same day. And my wife knew that Parker, that was his name, we knew now we're not discounting God can perform miracles, but every doctor, specialist, everyone we had talked to said there's no way he's going to survive because his kidneys are basically just cysts. And for a lot of reasons, his lungs wouldn't develop. He would look perfect. The pregnancy would be almost 100% normal. And because his lungs couldn't develop, he was just basically going to be born and pass away. And that's exactly what happened. And it was 4 months of torture for my wife. And doctor, the specialist, tried to get her to have, he was a good man, but he said, if you were my daughter, you would terminate this pregnancy today and basically have an abortion, knowing that there's absolutely no hope and you're just going to torture yourself. And that's not what she chose. That's not what I chose. That's not what we wanted to do. She went through that torture, and it happened exactly like I said. And we, after he had passed, we had him for 4 hours to hold him in our arms, and we wouldn't trade that for anything, even though he already had. But we still had a lot of questions. Why would God let this happen? And we know now. And my daughter is 14, almost 15 years old. And if Parker had lived, she would not have been born. And maybe God knew that Parker was the one Fullerton who wasn't going to accept Christ. And maybe he knew that. I don't know. But I do know that Chloe wouldn't have been born. And as we look back 16 years later, for all the torture, there was a plan there. Or at least Romans 8:28 says that as long as we love the Lord, basically, all things are going to work to the good. It doesn't mean all things are going to be good, but they're going to work to the good if we love him. And that's just exactly what you're talking about. No matter how drastic it is, there's a way that God's in control. And we'll have the answers sooner or later.
Yeah, right. And we don't always get to think about what is it in Acts 1, that it's not for us to know the time. It's not us. And then I think also of how high God's ways are above our ways.
Yeah.
And then the whole discourse in Job of where were you when I made the heavens and the earth? And that's what our faith is about. And I have the image of Christ. Where is it? Up here, but right here that I always keep up there. That it's and on the bottom it says, Jesus, I trust in you. And we talk a lot about in sports confidence. And if you look at the Latin roots of confidence, it's confidere, which means to trust.
Yeah.
And that's what confidence is really about, to trust. And our society, like you said, we have it backwards. We're told to trust in ourselves. No, that's Christianity. That's not Christianity.
I started saying this to our kids. I just heard over and over again on television and everywhere else, we got this. And as much as we as athletes and coaches like to say, we got this, there's an element of that, I know, but really it's not. It's no. We say GGT, God's got this. And, I really don't, uncomfortable almost talking about it, but we got to get out of our comfort zone sometimes. It's just, again, Romans 8:28 doesn't say that God's going to make everything good. What happened with George Floyd is not good, and nothing is ever going to make that good. That was awful. But hopefully we're going to see good things result from the awful thing that happened to him. So it may take us a while. I'll hope that it's sooner than later. But we're not promised that all things are going to be good. We're promised that as long as we love him, things are going to work to the good. And we got to keep believing that.
That's all we could do. That trust, that faith, and
trust.
It's big. And that's why like these the Zoom meetings and the fellowship is so important, because we need to fortify one another. It's important. I mean, Christ sent them
Absolutely.
out there. Christ sent them out 2 by 2. The devil wants to steal, kill, and destroy. The devil's all about division and divorce. God's
Yes,
about unity.
absolutely. Absolutely.
It's big. But you see, we start talking about baseball, and all of a sudden
Oh
we're
yeah.
about the
Well, it
faith.
applies to baseball.
That's it. That's fine.
The two elements you'd asked me to talk, be ready to talk about a little bit about what we do uh, with our mentality training, and so much of that comes from you and what we've learned from you. So much of that is something that I think forward-thinking people have been thinking about for years, and we're blessed to have you and people like you who will put that into a system. That's where we can. But I think forward-thinking coaches have been thinking for years: how am I going to help my kids' confidence, especially in baseball where they call it a failure game. And I get that if you're looking at batting average, but I think that if we reframe that, we can affect our kids' confidence a little bit too. This isn't a failure game. Now, if you want to judge yourself by batting average and knowing that 30% gets you into the Hall of Fame or whatever, okay, yeah. But if you reframe that and say, if I helped my team today, that was a success. Well,
Right.
now, even if I failed, but I failed with a good attitude so that my team is fed by that, now we're not dealing with the failure sport again. If we're even looking at hitting and saying, if I just have a quality at bat rather than getting a hit, if I saw 8 pitches, or if I hit the ball on the nose, now the pitcher's thinking, oh crud, that's a win. And if we reframe that, um, we're taking that failure ridden sport and we're putting a lot more positive effect on that. And that's one thing that we want to continue to grow at, how we present that. And another one is, and it relates to our world right now, is the word empathy. And that sounds like that's not something that you would want to have posted in your dugout. But we have that word posted in our dugout. I put I had a dry erase board made, custom made, and it says Teampathy, TEAM-PATHY, and everybody has to list the things that motivate them, and everybody lists the things that really are downers to them, to be competitive. And I know that every kid does not know everything about everybody else, but I want it to be there for them to know that, if you're looking to go encourage so and so, take a look, see what encourages him, and go do it. And including your coaches and us reaching out to you. And the COVID thing got us a little bit sooner than we could even make that a priority this year as far as our board goes. But same thing in our world right now. We've got to know what works. So.
Right. No, absolutely. And knowing what works and seeking those things out. And one of the things I really respect about you that I've seen even from our first conversation that we've had, I remember where I was at my brother's at my brother's old house, and I was walking around his table and I was on the phone with you, and just the hunger to learn, and how we talk about aggressiveness in sports and being offensive. Like you said, you did that with mindset training. You saw the information, you went after it. Maybe when other coaches weren't. Just now, you said with the Zoom meetings, you said you saw another coach doing that, and you said, let's implement that.
Yeah.
That's so important, and we can't forget to be like that in our careers in life, where we're pursuing the knowledge. We're as hungry to learn as we were in our sports career to get better.
It's a human condition, and I see it in coaching. Oh my goodness, I see it all the time. And I realize it's going on because it was a problem with me when I was a younger coach. And that is, I have this, I have the answers. And even if I don't have the answers, I've got to say, well, this is what I think. And so many times I remember being at Harding University in a Division II school and trying to find those answers, and I didn't have it in my heart what I really believed about it, but I needed to present something. This is what I have figured out for us. And man, it's a bad road to go down. So if we're doing our homework and we're willing to say I'm busting my tail, but boy, I've got a lot to learn. Um, that's where we need to be. And I see big league guys doing that. Mike Matheny the other night, he expressed that. I mean, he's at the epitome of his profession, and the humility that he expresses, and still trying to learn. And I used to be very, very skittish about saying I was a good coach. I know I'm a good coach. I don't know that I'm the best. I don't know that I even aspire to be the best. I aspire to be better every day. And once I started really learning that, and that it's okay for me to say, I'm not sure about that. Let's see where we're going to go with it. Or, man, that's a better idea than mine. Let's do that. Whether it be with an assistant or rarely even a player says something and we say, you know what, let's do that. It would have shattered me to say that at 28 years old. But now at 48, I'm a little bit more willing to say, you know what, brother, that's a great idea. Let's do that right now. And in realizing how imperfect I am, it's made me better. And it's kind of like wisdom. And I think James says that if we ask for wisdom, we're going to get it. That's one of those things. You ask for wisdom, you're going to get it. And I think the wiser I've gotten, the more I realize how dumb I am. But I listen to people that I look up to, and I think they feel the same way. So.
Absolutely. Well, it's as we grow in virtue, we grow, and I think you nailed it. You said humility. And we hear a lot about self-esteem in schools and in the world, but we hear very little about humility. And then everyone says, oh, kids aren't what they used to be. Everyone feels entitled. They're not coachable. Well, if we're not going to talk about humility, this is what we're going to say.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I'm around a lot of great coaches, and I think most coaches feel this way, but there are still a few who don't. And yeah, kids, I guess, but mostly I think kids are pretty much the same. Parents have changed a lot, but they don't need a bad rap. They're good. Kids are good. A lot of the changing has to be done by us, and I believe in a timely and timeless approach. There are some things that are timeless, and they don't need to be changed.
Right.
We got to be willing to listen, but we got some timeless things in our program that we're not changing.
Right.
But most things are timely. If it's time for a change because of this kid or that kid or kids in general, or as long as we're not changing the things that are timeless, we can change the things that are timely.
Right.
And we better be willing to do that if we want to stay in this game of just teaching and coaching kids.
That's absolutely right. That's a real good way of putting it. The other thing I like what you said before a couple minutes ago, saying about reframing the way we're looking at the sport. And a lot of times we say baseball is a failure sport, and a lot of times we're saying it more like as a joke, not a joke, but we're saying
tongue in cheek,
a little bit in jest. But I'm with you on that. And I'm going to start promoting that, actually, because that's not the words we use, to ourselves is a very big deal, because our words impact our thoughts, impact our behaviors, impact our destiny. So I've always said the words are the first link in the chain. And one of the big exercises that we have in our program is redefining what success and failure looks like. And then look, even after having designed the program myself, I fall into the trap a lot of times with baseball coaches saying it's a failure sport.
Yeah.
Not good. We don't want to do that. That's not good for the kid.
Well, your terminology and your verbiage and redefining, I just took, and I like it. I just simply like the word reframing a little bit better. But that's how we learn from each other. We take something that is yours or somebody else's. We like it. We reframe it to be something that we can reflect with our verbiage a little bit better, and it grows. And that's the sharing that we do and what we teach in teaching and coaching, because teaching is coaching and coaching is teaching. And coaches who don't enjoy teaching, man, should you be coaching? And that's what it is. And I agree. I was on a Zoom with some guys in Oklahoma and Kansas and Texas and Missouri. And I'm sorry, I can't remember the coach who said it. I wish I could give him props. But in baseball anyway, we always say it's I'll give you props the next 3 times, and then after that, it's mine. So I just can't remember. I can't remember who said this. But he was talking about self-talk, but he said we've got to make sure that we're talking to ourselves more than we're listening to ourselves. Because if I just sit back and I'm a listener, my human nature is going to take over, and it's going to be that I'm not good enough. I'm scared. I believe that Satan is active in everything to take away confidence from us. It doesn't matter what venue it is. I think he loves it when we're passive and we're timid and we're not. But I loved how he put that, and I kind of made it my own. Let's make sure we're talking to ourselves with purpose, rather than just sitting back and passively listening, because our heart's going to tell us the wrong thing a lot of times.
Right. In the fallen world after Adam and Eve, yeah, our heart is good. We have what are the effects? The darkened intellect, the weakened will, and the inclination to evil, to sin. So you're absolutely right. That's good. Now that gets my wheels turning when you say that. And I think that maybe we're listening too much to ourselves, and we're listening too little to other people, and we're talking too little to ourselves and talking too much to other people.
Yeah. Proverbs says, a man's heart is foolish. And I don't want to tell a kid, don't ever listen to your heart. But, when you say listen to your heart, I think we're saying, make a good choice. Think about what you need to do. And I think a good way to listen to your heart is what I just had my little girl do. Not little anymore, but almost 15-year-old girl. Make a list of things that are positives here. Make a list of things that are negative. Yeah, if you're listening to your heart that way, that's great. But if it's my emotions right now feel this way, let's listen to those. We're going to be in bad trouble. And it doesn't stop when we're 15. So.
No, you're absolutely right. We listen sometimes. You're right. Like society has it framed a little bit. It may be meaning well, but if we're not precise on the words we use, if we're not precise on what we're saying, it's easy to go off the rails. Like you said, overemphasizing our feelings? It's not saying our feelings are bad, but we overemphasize them too much.
Right.
And when people say, "Well, vote your conscience," well, that doesn't mean vote any which way you want. That means a formed conscience. Yeah. A formed conscience is very different than just voting on my feelings.
I like to watch the survival shows sometimes, and water is good for us, and emotions are good for us.
Yeah.
But if we don't go filter the water, we're going to get sick, and the show's going to be over. And if we don't filter the emotions, they're gonna lead us in a negative way.
Yeah.
So, absolutely.
That's awesome. That's awesome stuff, Shane. I always love speaking with you, and we could talk.
Well, I appreciate you. So much. I've got a little girl, I think, who's banging on the door right now, ready to go to basketball practice. But
nope.
We take a whole lot of encouragement from what you do, Gene, and always let us know if we can help you, bro.
Absolutely. Same with us. How do we send more people to, or just learning more information about Harding Academy? We might as well plug the university too while we're at it.
Absolutely.
And the Zoom meetings, if they could jump on that. I'll put them in the show notes below. Where do I send them?
Have them follow me on Facebook. That would probably be the best way now. And I put all of that stuff out on Facebook, and we'll start sending the invites. We'll send all of our invites through your email list as well. So anybody who wants to reach out and do it that way, that would be wonderful.
Awesome, Shane. Thanks again. God bless you and your family. Great talk.
God bless you, Gene. Take care, brother.
Take care.
See you.
Bye.